This is our discussion on New York race, 1980s, with the connection to the film Do the Right Thing. So in class, you are expected to read the articles that are posted here. I believe the author is Dan Flory, who talks about the sympathetic racist. And I'm not going to say too much in this screencast here because we are going to talk about these items. But for the most part, the discussion is going to focus on adjusting, learn helpless, having hatred, and insensitive, which is a response to oppression that was outlined by W.E.B. Du Bois as well as King, and on our spiritual strivings, as well as Letter from Birmingham Jail. So for the most part, we have an oppressed group. We could have any group, one, two, three, and how are individuals going to respond? How many will adjust? How many will learn helpless? And how many will have a hatred for the group that is oppressing them? So we have the prompts that you need to think about that we're going to, have you complete a writing assignment about. And I'm just going to give you a brief history on some of the issues going on since we are watching the film Do the Right Thing. Just in the 1980s, that decade, there were a series of events that definitely show the racial tension in New York City. And some of these items are indirectly addressed in the film Do the Right Thing. For example, the killing of Michael Stewart was killed by transit police for spray painting, the Bernie Goetz situation. Bernie Goetz was robbed by black youth several times. The individual goes out and purchases a gun. He has no permit to carry the weapon, and then when youths approach him in the subway, he opens fire and shoots the individuals. And we can see the end result, a jury of 10 white and 2 blacks. He was acquitted of attempted murder, first-degree assault charges, convicted of a criminal possession of a weapon in third degree. So these issues here can all kind of go back to the Black Lives Matter movement. Just trying to give you some historic examples. Here we see Yusef Hawkins. He's a 16-year-old boy. I want to say they reference him in the film. I want to say this is one. If not, it's the Howard Beach incident. As it tells you here, Hawkins and his friends were attacked by 10 to 30 white youths wielding a baseball bat, as well as a handgun in the process. So here we see some of the individuals that are going on trial. We see an acquittal. We see a second-degree murder charge, weapons possession, Howard Beach. Here we see the story of Michael Griffith was killed by a car when running from a mob of white males. And I do know that this was referenced in the film at the end. The chant of the crowd is saying Howard Beach. And I do think they actually mention a couple of other names. I just don't recall off the top of my head. So in the film, I want you to figure out a character, identify with that particular character, maybe think about why you are selecting this character, and so on. We also want to think about the dream deferred, this line right here, or does it explode at some point when you have tension between two groups, let's say black and white, and they kind of just go back and forth. At some point, there might be a breaking point, and that breaking point is the explosion. And so that's kind of what we're looking at here, because I think the film does address some of these ideas. And as we can proceed through some of these, slides here, I want you thinking about whether or not Sal's racist. Think about the characters here. We want to make sure we define the sympathetic racist. As I said, I'm not going to define it because that is part of the discussion. We also want to address the question whether or not Mookie did the right thing at the end of the film, and go back to these questions. And here we see some of the writing from King, 63, where he talks about some of those responses, that bitterness, people growing insensitive, that learned helpless. Should have something here from Du Bois. Now it looks like I have something here from Malcolm X, and the ending. And that's kind of where we're at. We've already addressed the LA riots in 65, the LA riots in 1992. And now we have a host of other events that have occurred in the 1980s regarding this particular topic.